Hello there and welcome to your week ahead forecast, which takes us into the end of July and into the beginning of August. But will it be a wet or a dry start to the new month? Well, let's take a look at the bigger picture, and we can still see the Azores high just sitting to the southwest of the UK, but at times this does drag in some frontal systems on its northern flank. So as we head into Tuesday, yes, we are set to see some clouds, some outbreaks of rain, but through the course of the week, any persistent outbreaks of rain largely turning showery in nature. And as the high pressure sits to the southwest, we'll see some ridging at times, which means we'll see plenty of bright spells. But what you might notice towards the middle part of the week is things are starting to get warm, quite muggy and humid at times, and we're still going to see some frontal systems at times sweeping in from the west, once again bringing more organised showery bands of rain sweeping their way in from the west, but eventually a more northerly flow as a ridge builds from the west, turning things fresher for the end of the week. But before we get there, let's just rewind the clock back and start off with Tuesday, and it is going to be a damp start to the day, quite murky at times, plenty of low cloud, particularly in the northwest, for example, across Northern Ireland. And through the course of the day, we'll see this cloud, these outbreaks of rain shift their way southeastwards. Perhaps a little heavy at times, but for most it's just going to mean a murky and damp start to the day. As we head into the afternoon though, any rain, cloud breaking away and largely turning showery in nature. So there is still a chance of some rain on the cards, but for many it should brighten up by the afternoon. But much of the rain or showers isn't really going to reach eastern areas, so it should be largely dry here. The best of the sunshine likely across northern eastern parts of Scotland, perhaps breaking up a little bit across the southeast, and by the time we reach the afternoon, plenty of sunshine across parts of Cornwall. And it is still set to be a warm day ahead, highs reaching around 23 to 24 degrees across the south, and still warm across northern areas, but temperatures more around average for the time of year. Now later into the evening, any organised showers drifting their way towards the southeast, eventually clearing away, and a ridge of high pressure tends to build across the west as we head through into Wednesday. But once again, that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be dry. There's still going to be some showers on the cards, particularly across eastern areas as we head towards the afternoon. And later into the day, we'll start to see thicker cloud, perhaps some light outbreaks of rain just start to edge their way into western Scotland, Northern Ireland. But for many areas, particularly across the west, it's set to be a much brighter day. A little less cloud here, so more sunshine starting to break through, and once again temperatures around average for many of us, but starting to feel warm, starting to feel a little muggy, particularly across the south, highs reaching around 25 degrees Celsius here. But for many, Wednesday, the middle part of the week, should be mostly dry, and we'll see some bright, if not sunny spells by the afternoon. Then later on Wednesday into Thursday, once again, just around the northeastern edge of that high, just so a little organised frontal system moving its way in from the west there. So by the time we reach Thursday morning, once again, some low cloud, perhaps some showery outbreaks, and these could turn heavy at times. And as we see that heat build through the day, we see that humidity build, there is a chance we could also see some localised thunderstorms. So do keep an eye on our website, across our social media channels for any updates on those. And yes, there could also be some isolated showers across Scotland, but for many areas, once again, it should be a dry and bright day ahead, particularly across the east, away from that more organised system across the southwest. And in those sunny spells, once again, feeling warm, still on the humid side, so a little bit uncomfortable for some, highs reaching around 25 to 26 degrees Celsius, perhaps turning a little fresher across the far north of Scotland later into the day. And Friday, it's fairly similar. Once again, a chance of showers. These could be heavy, if not quite thundery, particularly at the beginning part of the day across parts of the southeast. And once again, as that heat starts to build across the south, there's a chance of some heavy thundery showers, but likely to be fairly isolated. Many areas, once again, a dry and bright afternoon. Some sunshine ahead, and as we see a bit more of a northerly flow by the end of the week, things will start to turn a little fresher, particularly across Northern Ireland, Scotland, northern parts of England. So feeling a bit more pleasant, but still on the humid side across the south. To end on Friday into Saturday, we're still a little under the influence of the Azores high as it ridges towards the west of the country into the weekend. So it's likely many of us will see a dry and bright Saturday. But of course, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any of our weather updates. Bye-bye.